Alright, this is just going to be kind of a quick build video, just what I've been doing lately. And I thought I'd put this out there because it does seem to work. Basically, I've got 2 pieces of heavy, everything else is medium. And I do that for the weapon damage in the medium armor passive. The heavy pieces for the added tankiness and for the undaunted metal, having that. And you want your heavy pieces to be on the larger armor sets. For instance, here it might not really count for all that much if you had a heavy here. So this would give you a lot more resistance, having the heavy armor on the larger pieces. But basically, I've got 4 fortified brass and a fortified brass battle axe at each end. This is just kind of a filler. My other piece are the Impregnable armor set, and this one isn't really built with the right trait. What you would want to do is get Impenetrable, and I've got that here. This hasn't been a priority. This is what I've been able to find. And I've got Impregnable armor rings. Now you want these in the robust trait, and these are kind of hard to find, but it's worth having that on there. So I have 2 with a robust trait and enchanted with weapon damage, and on the neck I have robust and 169 magic recovery. Now you might look at that and think, well, that's kind of crazy, you don't have weapon damage on there or anything. But I'll show you why in a minute. So basically that's the build. Unbuffed, I've got 26,833 spell resistance, and my physical resistance is at 2433. I'll go ahead and buff up. And now you can see my spell resistance is at 32,000, almost 30,000 here, and my critical resistance is at 5385. Now once I get this to be impenetrable, I'll have a critical resist of right around 5600. Just for reference, about 6500 will negate any critical damage that you receive. It'll return it to be like a normal hit. For instance, there's a lot of people running around Cyrodiil with about 3,000, and that will say you get hit for a 10,000 damage skill. Okay, if that is a critical damage skill, that's going to be 15,000. If you have 3,000 critical resist, it's going to be at right around, I'm going to say probably, let's just say 2.5. So the hit that you take is going to be like 12,500 instead of 10,000. Now, another thing that's really important to realize about critical hits is going into the champion tree. People are putting points here, and if you have a high crit damage build, you're going to find yourself putting a lot of points here, and this will raise your critical strike damage up enough to, I'll say, right around 25% if you put all 100 in there. Now, typically what people do is they'll I'll put like 60 points in there and get like around, oh, maybe let's say 20% or something like that. But that's quite a strike. You know, every time you get a critical strike, that goes off. And it's the same here for your stamina builds as well. So that's gonna really play a role for somebody. So where I'm sitting here, I'm going to take a whole lot less critical damage. Now, in normal bosses, in trials and that sort of thing, NPCs, they don't crit, so this isn't really going to benefit you there. And in normal hits, this isn't really going to benefit you. But when it comes to critical hits, you're going to take a lot less damage, and there's a lot of players out there running around with 50% crit, so as you can imagine, that really starts to come into play. Now, getting into it, there's two potions that I've used, and you'll see why in a minute. In Imperial City, I tend to use this one just to make me quicker, and it actually gives you major brutality, which is nice. You know, keep your weapon damage up. I can get major brutality off my skills, but it's kind of nice just to always have that there. But this is a potion I use when I want to generate magic, and I'll show you why here. Dragonfire scale takes 3780 in magic, and this is a skill I really want to have on this build. So if I'm using Dragonfire scale, I don't need to use it this much, you know, usually only once every 6 seconds. But as you can see, I can do that. I hit a tripod, and I'm able to do this some more. Now, my magic recovery is right around 800. So, as you can see, this really comes into play there. And I can't tell you how useful this skill has been. It's just really helped out a good deal as far as anytime somebody tries to shoot a projectile at me, you know, they're just going to get reflected back at them. And I guess they also get a little bit more damage. It says 35%. I don't know that it's that just in practice, but you know, I've had people shoot me and have things shot back at them and basically kill themselves. That usually happens a few times a day when I'm out in Cyrodiil or somewhere else. You know, somebody will shoot me, and one of the biggest things I remember today, a guy one-shotted himself. He shot me with an overload skill, and well, I had my wings up and it reflected back at him, and he pretty much died instantly. I didn't have to do anything. So this is kind of a must-have skill for me at this point. I also run Steel Tornado in Imperial City. It's really good for clearing out mobs and that sort of thing. Rending Slashes. Well, what I'll do is I use a combination. I'll hit Molten Armaments. That gives my heavy attacks 40% more. And Rending Slashes will give the damage over time. So basically, let's just see what it is buffed up. Okay, with each weapon I'm hitting for 26-24, and it causes an additional bleed over 9 seconds. So basically, what this does is each hit is going to give me about 5,200 initial, and then an additional 9,000 after that for 9 seconds. And it also reduces their movement speed, which is really good to have out there. This is my resolving vigor. I keep that here. Dawnbreaker is smiting. This is a really good skill. It's, in a lot of ways, it's not as good as Take Flight, because Take Flight, the damage hits all at once. I've actually been able to one-shot people with the Take Flight, but this does give it nice damage over time, and it'll hit everything in front of you. So basically, if you have a mob in front of you, this will hit. Anyway, I guess that's about the extent of it. Basically, what this set has done is give me a whole lot of critical resistance. I'll just go into the champion tree a little bit. I've got 66 into Ironclad. I've got 61 into critical resistance. 43 into Hardy. 43 into Elemental Defender. And 7% into Quick Recovery. I've got 51% into Warlord. 64 into Mooncalf. 28 into Arcanist Magic Recovery. That gives me an extra 7%, which is really helpful when I'm doing something with the reflective scale. And I've got 60 into Befoul, and this is important. Now, as you can see, I'm using disease damage. Well, disease damage will give you minor Befoul, which is 15%. But once I add this here, 15 plus 46, that's like 61% reduction in healing. That's pretty good. It only lasts for 5 seconds, but with the way the glyphs proc, that can really help out quite a bit. I've got 15 into Dodge Roll, 27 into Blessed, which is giving me 7%. Physical Weapons Expert, I have 11% there. Master at Arms, I have 22%, 66 points there. 65 into Piercing, and 64 into Mighty. Now, I haven't put a lot into Precise Strikes really, because I'm only hitting 1 out of 3 times. Now, I might be able to get my total DPS up a little bit if I did put some points here, but that really hasn't been the priority. I may have to look into that, but at 30%, I'm only hitting maybe a critical strike 1 out of 3 times, so that really hasn't been too much. Now, if I was a higher crit build, that might start to matter. And there's a lot of people out there that do that with higher crit builds, which is really why you want to have this critical resistance here. So, I guess that's about it. Pirate Skeleton, Fortified Brass, Impregnable Armor, Impregnable Armor Jewelry, Fortified Brass Infused Battle Axes. By the way, infused procs just about all the time. I'll show you something else. This is an enchant I've used in Imperial City, as there are a lot of Daedra and that sort of thing. Well, a lot of other players are vampires and that sort of thing, and this will affect them pretty well. So, I've had this thing crit up to 13k on unbuffed targets, so it really does hit pretty hard. Normally a crit will hit right around 98, 83, and then a normal hit will be around 65, 80 or something like that. But it hits really hard, so this is just something to keep in mind. Now, I've had some people ask me about Imperial City bosses and how to solo them and that sort of thing. I'm going to go into it a little bit. There's a couple Imperial City bosses. One is the ice giant, and the other is the what is it? That octopus-looking character. Both of them can really mess you up if you don't know what you're doing. Once you know what you're doing, it's fairly easy. The ideal thing you'd want to have when going against those two is Deadly Cloak. Now you can either have Deadly Cloak or Quick Cloak. It really doesn't matter. The damage output from this thing isn't terribly large, but if you keep this up, it reduces your area effect damage by 25%. So this is what you're going to want to have against those two. There is a Screeching Moron. It looks like a dinosaur of sorts, and what it'll do is spawn a bunch of little dinosaurs, and sometimes it'll stand there and hit you with its tail. You got to know when that happens and then block it. You also don't want it to headbutt you and get you in that CC. So try to get that. If that happens, and it will, just get out of that CC as soon as possible. Learn when it happens, and engage block, and it shouldn't really affect you. When all the little dinosaurs spawn and come after you, try to position yourself to where the big dinosaurs and all the little dinosaurs are somewhat together, and hit the Dawnbreaker of Smiting. This will knock them down, and it'll really take out a lot of their health. And once it does that, you can give them a few Steel Tornadoes, and that'll be it. Steel Tornado is really effective against low health targets. I'll show you. It says 100% more damage based on each percentage of their missing health. Also in the passives, increase damage by dual wield abilities by 20% against enemies under 25% health. So this is actually a really good execute. The only problem with Steel Tornado is it does tend to cost a lot of stamina, and that's something you gotta watch out for. So, but I'll go into a fight with Molten Armaments pulled up. I'll have that active, and I'll heavy attack into running slashes, and basically these skills hit at the same time. And not only am I building ultimate using that, the heavy attacks, but I'm building stamina as well. So anytime I'm in there with a boss, I just keep that up. Now, let's see, I've covered the ice giant, the Screeching Moron, and the octopus. Yeah, the octopus thing, you'll really want to have Deadly Cloak on. That one's still just a little hard for me. You just want to get out of its way and hit it from behind if you can. But this, if you need to be in front of it, you can do that. Just make sure to have this up. There's one other guy. There's one other dinosaur-looking guy, and it seems like you encounter him in the arena a lot. And what I do for him is I'll keep Dragonfire scale up because he does shoot at you. and you can reflect it back at him, but you really don't want that on you. Uh, so he'll shoot at you, and anytime you see a red circle appear underneath you, you want to keep moving. You want to get out of that because it'll do a pretty good bit of damage to you. As soon as he spawns the Daedra, you just go ahead and hopefully you have your Flawless Dawnbreaker set up. Either Flawless or Dawnbreaker spawning, and you hit that and give him a few whirls of the Steel Tornado, and that should be about it. Let's see what else. There's a couple guys that look like Daedra that looks like they've been in Gold's Gym for a while, and those guys can hurt you, but typically with those guys, what I do is I'll use these potions and I'll run around them really fast. So if I'm running around them real fast or dodge all through them, you know, I can kind of attack them from behind. I know when they're going to spawn, what they're going to do pretty much, and they'll spawn these skeletons, and of course you do the same thing. Hopefully you have your Dawnbreaker set up and your Steel Tornado. You do that, and that knocks him down. There is a bug which will put you in a cocoon, and you'll need to CC break that. He also spits this stuff at you, and you'll want to reflect that back at him. He'll also spawn bugs, so ideally if you get into a fight with that guy, you can basically, when he spawns the bugs and they're coming at you, you can get them all kind of in the same place. Drop a Flawless Dawnbreaker or a Steel Tornado, and that'll knock that out. You'll want to keep your reflective scale up. If he spawns kind of a lightning spawn, you'll want to get out of that. There is a giant serpent looking thing. I'm not sure what it's called, but that one you definitely want to have your reflective scale up, as it will it'll shoot something at you, and it's really hard to keep your health up when that happens. But if you shoot it back at him, of course you're pretty much good to go. On those two, I don't really use any area of effect abilities. I keep this Steel Tornado up. Now, the serpent will spawn these giant balls around its perimeter, and they're pretty far away. So what I'll do is I'll crit rush into each of them, surrounding them, and hopefully I get all of them before they get to him. If they get to him, that means he heals for a certain percentage of its health, and of course you don't want that, so you want to get that out of the way. Try to stay out of the red lightning areas that go off. But yeah, keep your reflective scale up there. I think I've covered about everything. If you have any more questions, just leave them in the comments, and I'll try to get to you on that. But anyway, yeah, that's what I've been doing. The feel of this build, without having going into any real testing, the way it feels like my regular damage that I'm going to take, right? But it's like the big damage from the crits. That's been really reduced, so it really has given me the ability to fight multiple people at the same time without dying right away. And as long as I keep my vigor up and I'm fighting in a smart manner, I usually don't get ganked. So It's just something to keep in mind. One-on-one players, I don't run into too many that can really do anything to me. Not if I'm paying attention anyway. So anyway, I hope this helps you guys out. Probably when the patch comes, it's going to allow this will not just count as one slot, but 2 slots. So basically, I could have 2 fortified brasses in here, and then this will count as 2 fortified brass, which will free up my armor to only needing 3 pieces of fortified brass, which means I could probably keep the pirate skeleton. The other piece I plan on using is this Mighty Children's Arm Crops. I can use that with the pirate skeleton. That'll give me a lot more resistance, and I'll be able to keep the Impregnable and use that, and I should be pretty well good to go on that. You know, I'll have all kinds of resistance. I think it runs at about 35k or something along those lines. Okay, I'm at 29.8. So as you can see, yeah, my spell resistance is at 35k. My physical resistance is at almost 33. My critical resistance has gone down, of course, because I've taken that piece off, which I will go ahead and put that back on. As soon as I find it. There it is. And now I'm back to normal. So anyway, that's the build for you, and that's what I've been doing, and I hope this helps you guys out. I've kind of had an interesting day today trying this out. It came from a friend of mine, or this part of it did, as he pointed some things out, and I got ganked by Nightblade the other day, and it just didn't seem like he should have been able to do the damage he did, as I had really high resistance. I was using the Mighty Cholan. I have an agility set here, but anyway, he was able to do it, and I didn't think he should have been able to. At this point, I don't think he's going to have nearly the critical strike ability that he had before, and he's probably got his critical strike ability built up pretty good, but you know, this will take it way down, and it's really the big numbers that you want to take down. I'm not getting hit with the big numbers anymore, it seems like, so this is what I'm doing, and it's allowed me to fight a lot more people and that sort of thing. Single players, I'd say about 95% of them you'll be able to take with this build if you're being careful and you're doing it right and not making mistakes and that sort of thing. There's not going to be too much that can really do anything to you. But anyway, I guess I'm going to wrap this up. I'll see you guys out there. I hope this helps. Take care.